All right, if you are continuing this series and you've already watched the previous two videos, this is a continuation. This is going to be the third part. I appreciate your time and your effort in clicking on this video and continuing to to hear my thoughts and comparisons on these two amazing Batmobiles, the 1989 Batmobile from Jazzinc and from Hot Toys. So let me continue. First, let me start off to say that I know that there is some criticism in the first two videos of the shortcomings that I have identified on mine, right? Some of the shortcomings in terms of like these type of body lines or the divots and the incongruencies of, this divot might not be on the other side and so on and so forth or whatever. And then some of the orange peeling effect that I pointed out on the paint job. If you're still anticipating your order from batch 2 and batch 3, just understand that these Batmobiles from Jazzinc, they are individually handmade in terms of like all of the finish sanding and the painting and all that stuff, whatever. So some of the downfalls and some of the flaws that I have in my paint or my body work, they might just be individual to mine or a certain few. Yours. You might receive yours and you might have these two divots because it seems like even from the test batch, those are pretty prominent from the body lines and the way it cooled there. That's just kind of how the cookie crumbled on that one. But some of the other paint issues that I have, it may not be such on yours. So I don't want you to get discouraged and anticipate your 89 Jazzinc Dioramas Batmobile with less enthusiasm and less joy than you should. Because the reality is, like I said, they're all individually hand painted and hand sanded. So, perhaps maybe the first batch is like a learning lesson for the people that are at the factory and they're going to get more proficient and efficient with this process. And, hopefully it works out for batch 2 and batch 3 that, a lot of those paint things can be corrected. In terms of some of the engineering flaws or downfalls that I've pointed out, like for instance, the rocking of the canopy, then also those center console levers, and then the gas cap. What the hell's going on here? There we go. All right, got that closed. The gas cap being kind of floppy. Those are engineering things that there's absolutely no possibility that Jazzinc is going to refine and retool those things. The molds have been made. This is in production. So in terms of the engineering tolerances and features like that, those are going to probably remain the same throughout all of the batches and be pretty consistent in what it is that you're seeing here. Okay. That being said, though, like I said, the paint and the body work is a little different. If they sanded mine too much on one end and didn't correct it, it does not necessarily mean that yours is going to be like that. And no matter what, even the flaws that I've pointed out, it's not like I love this thing any less. Like I said in the last video, we've waited over 30 years to get these, so I'm over the moon to be able to be fortunate enough to have both of these in my collection. And they will both remain in my collection. I am not trying to get rid of the Hot Toys just because now I got the Jazzinc. If anything, later on, what I can do is the inaccuracies that are on the Hot Toys. If I get an itch, I can go ahead and modify that Batmobile to my liking and have it reflect a little bit more of what it is that Yost did on this Jazzinc Batmobile. I can paint the rims. I can take a jeweler saw and cut out the machine gun grate, that forward panel that has the mesh underneath it. I have mesh in various designs and patterns that I can put under there, and whatever looks good, I can use and embellish and enhance the overall appearance of that 89 Batmobile. I could also dirty it up a little bit and have a dirty version. So that's an option as well. Mainly the purpose of me going over all this stuff is, although I know that, this Batmobile various people have either put out videos or photos on Facebook or Instagram. I think the more information that we have and the more experiences that are shared from collectors, I think the better we all are, the better off we all are. In terms of, if you're still awaiting your Batmobile, you have a little bit clearer picture on what it is that you could expect. If you are the type of collector where you kind of, Jazzinc is not exactly the most world-renowned, worldwide, brand name, as in like and this is not in terms of the equivalence of quality, but Hasbro is a name that everybody knows throughout the world. Mattel, large toy company and corporations. Hot Toys is known among all collectors, right? Jazzinc is getting the momentum more and more every day with the courageous endeavors that he's taking on professionally in his company, and gaining more notoriety and more eyes on his stuff, which benefits all of us, right? The more exposure that he gets, the more projects he can take on, and but I do feel that with some honest feedback and some honest and objective reviews, such as this one, those processes and the decisions made in perhaps the materials or the paint application or the process of sanding or what have you, some of these things that are getting pointed out engineering-wise and application-wise, they could be improved upon, right? So it's like at your job. If you don't know that you're doing something incorrectly, you are not going to strive to improve what you feel is already adequate, right? So in that way, I hope that whatever criticism I am lending in these videos is taken more as constructive criticism, and that also I do not want to be the stampeding of your joy when it is that you receive yours, because the reality is these are fantastic. I still kind of in awe of the fact that I have these things in my collection, right? But getting on to the review, so we ended off with the left side of the Jazzinc and comparing the canopies from one another. One other thing that I wanted to go ahead and do in terms of the canopy and the windscreen is there's somewhat of a tiny gap in between the windscreen and that front center vertical piece of the the canopy. And apparently I left my... Alrighty. I have misplaced yet another component. There we go. It's fell on the floor. All right. Sorry about that. Next time I'll pause so I don't waste your time. All right. So what I want to point out is that there is a, once again, this is kind of an engineering tolerance type thing. There's a gap, a small gap, albeit a small gap, in between the windshield and this front center kind of bridge of the nose of the canopy side. Not very noticeable right now because I don't have anything backlit to kind of point it out. But if I take a flashlight and I slowly kind of move it forward, right there, you could see that light kind of in that crack. And another thing too, from this angle, you could see the transparency of the canopy windshield itself. It has somewhat of a green tinge to it. This is a white light, right? If you're in bed watching this at night, I apologize, man. I'm not trying to blind you on purpose. So yeah, it's got kind of a green tinge to it, right? But I just wanted to point out that there is that gap in between. That gap is not present on the Hot Toys. That once again, it's sitting on your shelf, you being, approximately 5 to 12 feet away, viewing it from your couch or your computer chair or whatever. It's not like it's going to detract from you being able to appreciate that. Or to appreciate it. So it's just one of the things that I noticed. I have gone through this thing with a fine-tooth comb for the most part, and it's one of the things that I found, and I wanted to share it as well, right? So let's move on to some of the accuracy to which Jazzinc was able to get this. So these rear vents on the Hot Toys, the molding of it is very shallow, whereas opposed to this one, like I could put the tip of my pinky finger in there. So these are deep weld ventilation or intake vents or exhaust. I don't know exactly what the hell that is, to be quite honest. If you try to uh, figure out what logistically, mechanically, in terms of engineering wise, everything, you got a turbine in the front, but you got a turbine exhaust in the back. And I know there's a diagram, I have it upstairs, but anyways, just for the purpose of continuing and getting through these parts, these vents right here, superbly done. It's got the metal mesh behind it, which is accurate to the movie. I'm not too sure if the size of the holes or that pattern, or it even being, kind of like a raw stainless steel, or, it's a very nice satin stainless steel, but I don't know if it's supposed to be black or metal or whatever. But the fact that we have mesh back there adds to the overall appeal and how good it looks, right? So then moving on to here, there's one of the things that I noticed. This is going to be one of those flaw things. There is a portion on the top of that intake scoop, and it is right there. So there is, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the cooling or from the mold, I'm not too sure, but there is like this kind of like a melted part, like a globby melted part of the body itself, of the cover of this intake scoop. That's the only flaw that I see on this side. This right here, where you step onto this one to get in, that's done extremely well. It's a little bit recessed. It's got kind of not a diamond grate pattern, but a diamond pattern in terms of like that the grips. If you're familiar with like getting on a boat or any non-slip surface, that's what that can be equated to. So all in all, extremely well done. And it's better if I leave the light here where you could see one of the great things about the detail in terms of the paint apps on this is you could see where like the front of this scoop is a bit of a more clean metal, where it starts to get a little darker here as like dirty air keeps on going in and darkening up this spot. That is a great detail. That gradient in, the more silver kind of finish in the front to the darker, almost like a brown tinge, metallic fade or gradient into the back. That's extremely well done. Another thing that they did great in terms of that air scoop is, let me move this here. You have, once again, the mesh in the back. So extremely great attention to detail for that. Here, once again, another great detail. You've got that mesh on that panel. All of the tooling for this portion right here, superbly done. There's a chain that's magnetic, and let me show you. They did supply these tweezers, so it goes connected to the bottom of this piece here, and then there is a tiny. Let me see if I can get it. All right, there's a tiny spot right there, and that is a small magnet that you attach the other side to. So let me curve this over here. I feel like I'm playing one of those arcade games with the little claws to get a cheap piece of jewelry that you could have gotten at the flea market. But there you go. So that hangs there. Once again, another great attention to detail. I've thought about different engineering things that you could have done there, where you could have put like a little hoop or this end, whatever on it. But I think with as thin and delicate as that chain is, it could have gotten caught on stuff and ripped off, and then you would have had a link. That last link that would have attached it either to this part or that other part, that last link would have opened up, and eventually you would have had to take a pair of pliers and close it back down and all that stuff or whatever. So it being magnetized, so long as it's sitting on the shelf, it's not like it's going to be moving and anybody's going to be messing with it. So, it's a great attention to detail. The fact that it's magnetic, if it comes off, nothing breaks, you just reattach it. It's on there by magnetic attraction. So I think that is a really nice detail to add. I do have something to say about the grapnel that was used in the movie to shoot at that one subway stanchion, that column. to be able to make a sharp turn. But I will get to it when we get to the right side and compare it to the Hot Toys. So that will be left for later. Now, moving a little forward for the access panel, where the where those discs get shot out of. This side opens just fine. I just put my fingernail in the front. It opens fine. I have no issues with this. It functions perfectly. If I close it, it stays shut just fine. I'm going to use the Hot Toys magnet, to remove that lower panel. The shin breaker fins / wings, I am never going to use that. This is already large enough of a vehicle taking up real estate that I'm not going to ever use those wings. It's great that it's included for people that, whenever you have extra accessories, that if you get the motivation one day, we're like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and display it this way one day. Or you just want to display one side. Maybe you don't put... Maybe you don't put both sides on. Maybe you just put one side on, which is the side that you're displaying, right? Let's say somebody does a third party, one of the clowns or the guy that whose shin he broke in returns. You could do that. So, I mean, the option is there, and the fact that it's there is pretty damn cool. But this little panel, it sits flush. There's no, wobbliness or anything. It sits flush in there, stays in there very well. And I have no issues there. Front wheel, same as the back. What I will say is, in terms of the wheel function on the Jazzinc 89 compared to the Hot Toys, and I don't know if it's that you have to push it out, but this does move in and it moves out, and it does independently on each wheel. When you go to rotate this, if you set it in and try to rotate it, which I will demonstrate here, it is very janky. It does not turn smoothly, and it is extremely wobbly in every direction. So even if I pull it out or if I do it, I can do it in and out, right? So in, there's a lot of play. Of course, left and right, because it's on an axle, so it's going to be able to move left and right. But in terms of the up and down play, it just seems unstable and not as quality, okay? Now, let me try to rotate it. When you pull it out just a little bit, it does rotate a little better. As you can see, this wheel needs a little bit of balancing, but it rotates a little smoother. That being said, you could still kind of see it not being as smooth, and it does stop abruptly because there's something in the axle that's inhibiting it from rotating freely. And to contrast that with the Hot Toys, once again, no downing the accuracy. The tire tread, more accurate. The fact that it has the Mickey Thompson and all of the small, detailed written information on the tire, that's more accurate. The color of the rim, more accurate. I've already gone over this bat symbol being its own machine piece. That is absolutely accurate. But right now I'm going over the function and the engineering of the wheel itself in the way it turns. So we just did the Jazzinc. Let's go ahead and do the Hot Toys. Now, my Hot Toys, I have always left. Let me go ahead and see if I can point this out for you. So these are the original pegs that when you first receive this Batmobile, it's on a flat piece of cardboard, and then they have these little shims that you put here that goes in that little groove that keeps the cardboard sandwiched between that piece and the Batmobile. I thought it was nice because I didn't want to get any flat spots on my tires. So what I thought was, if I leave all of these in, which every single one is in, I can count 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. There's 9 of these. So these actually protrude out so ever slightly past what the height of the tires is that you really can't notice it when it's on a flat surface. But right now, this tire is not touching. I can rotate it, and it's not, and both hands here, I'm not holding it up. that tire is not touching, but it's ever so slightly raised from those. I was like, oh man, you know, it's better for the weight distribution of this vehicle to be on all of those pegs, as opposed to all of the weight of the vehicle being on, you know, that small strip of the center line of the tire on whatever flat surface it's going to be on, right? So anyways, that's one thing that you haven't thought of, and you want to replicate it. It's what I've done. I haven't had an issue, and it distributes all the way through all of those 9 points where those screws are in. But anyways, I know I've already rotated it, but in comparison and contrast to the Jazzinc Batmobile and the rotation, I did lift up the Jazzinc when I did that, so let me lift this one up. I'm going to go ahead. Now, this one does not pull out or go in as much as that one. It's a very small tolerance in terms of how much it goes out. Now, it does go back and forth the same way that the Jazzinc does, and if I rotate it, I'll do it again. Oh, that was a bad one. It's like a miniature Wheel of Fortune. You can see that it rotates much more smoothly. There's no wobbling like an unbalanced tire. There's no wobbling of it. And it comes to a smooth end. It doesn't come to an abrupt, like it just hit something and that's the reason why it stopped. So in terms of functionality of the wheels, which once again, you know, it is a what could be designated as a minor nitpick, right? Because the reality is nobody is going to be rolling these Batmobiles across the floor playing with their kids. I know I'm not. I mean, they would love that. Don't get me wrong, but nobody's going to be rolling these on the floor. So it's not like you're going to be exposing that flaw on the Jazzinc or exposing how well the Hot Toys rolls. But it is something in terms of the engineering and the execution of these vehicles being a wheeled vehicle that at a minimum, the wheel should function in a smooth and congruent fashion, right? So it's something that I just wanted to point out. And so that's about it for the tire comparison. And that is essentially the same exact type function for all 4 tires on both models, okay? There's the same difference in function and operation is present on all 4 tires. So that being said, I think basically the side of this car is done. Let me roll this around to the front. And I apologize. I think I might be starting to get what it is that my kids have. And so you could see, I mean, the profile, this car is beautiful. Like when you see this line, there is plenty of promotional images that when you're going front on, you know, just raised a little bit, you know, it's not like I don't have the camera straight on up here. It's kind of up here looking down. And from this angle, I mean, it is just a gorgeous silhouette of a Batmobile. I mean, it's curvaceous, it's provocative. It looks absolutely fabulous. And the height of these windows really do add so much more character than the thin, low height ones of the Hot Toys. I mean, right there, you could see. I mean, you have a large window here, and you've got that kind of small, almost paddy wagon level thin viewing surface, right? So it is a beautifully shaped, in terms of form, Batmobile. So getting onto the front, I don't want to say that there's too many gripes, to be honest, on the front. I can think of 2, but other than that, I mean, if you look at that, that is absolutely beautiful shot there. Let me get this robo vacuum out of the way. But so yeah, from the front, I mean, this thing is absolutely gorgeous. Let me go ahead and point this down so we can get a little bit more detail on the headlights, and I will also display the turning turbine function at a closer view. So here's a pretty decent view of the headlights and the turbine. So to activate the turbine is going to be, I believe, button number 5 on the controller. So on this supplied controller, we're going to hit number 5. All right. And that is a super cool function. So that's about how loud it is. And I don't have a problem with it. In my opinion, I'm not expecting something that turns and that is motorized to be silent. It gives a really cool, these types of functions like the fog in the exhaust, these are novelties that really elevate a collectible. In the same way that the levers in the console and the gas cap kind of detract from it in ways. There's other things like this turbine turning and the smoke machine in the rear turbine exhaust. Those things are the novelties that really just make and elevate these type of collectibles to another level, right? If we were to get a complete, perfect, idealized version, it would be great to get one that pops these off somehow, which I don't know how comfortable we'd be popping off. They'd have to give us extra machine gun covers because those are going to get nicked and scraped up or whatever. But if these were able to move mechanically and then the machine guns pop up, through some type of small servo or something like that, and if there were, I don't think I did the machine guns, did I? Let me open up this panel. There we go. So, if these were to raise through some type of servo, right, and you have a remote control, and then through the body of this Browning machine gun, through that center barrel, you had a flash of light, which it has been done before on the Cinemaquette 1/12 scale Batmobile that was released early 2010s or so. I was made aware of it around the 2014, 2015 timeframe, which is when I bought the Hot Toys version. Their version had some type of mechanism that would pop, throw off the machine gun lid, and then there was lights and sounds coming from the machine gun, and that was awesome. If we could get a version like that in 1/6 scale, I think the only things, the novelties of things that could be added would be motorizing these, having lights and sounds for the machine guns. If we could motorize the canopy for open and close functions, that would be phenomenal. Even, adding an RC function where you can kind of move this vehicle at a very controlled, slow speed, just to see it in motion as you sit back and watch it. Not something that goes 10, 15 miles per hour, something that maybe goes 1 to 2 miles an hour just to make it go. That would be a super ultimate, in my opinion, super ultimate rendition of this vehicle. That's kind of the only things that are missing. But you know what? Let me also demonstrate that while you have the turbine on, that turbine, turbojet fan is what it's technically called. If I were to, I think I left some water in this. If I were to hit button number 6, let me take off that cap. Come on. So the cap is removed, and I'll. All right, so there I just turned on the rear lights, and you heard a difference in the speed of the turbine. So you've got the same power supply supplying power to every electrical circuit on this, but now you've got a redistribution of the amount of current that's going through that circuit. So you have a bit of a drop on there. We might hear another drop once I turn the turbine on, and you should have been able to audibly pick up on the turbine slowing down a little bit. So the pitch of that what's called a whirring, not a worrying, but a whirring sound. Sorry. That whirring sound is from the speed at which the turbine, the turboprop fan spins, right? So the faster that it spins, the higher pitch that whirring sound is going to be. The slower that rotates, the deeper or lower note that whirring sound is going to hit. So just wanted to display that. the exhaust just kicked off and you heard this pick up a little faster again. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the rear lights. Actually, it did. When the the steam exhaust stopped after the 30 seconds, it also turned off the lights, which allowed the turboprop fan to rotate faster. And so hopefully you not only heard it, but you can visually see it. Although I wasn't behind the camera to verify that. But anyways, I just wanted to display that. This is one of those novelties where, like, once again, if you have your Batmobile, displayed sideways and all you can see is the side, it's kind of hard to really appreciate, this function and the exhaust function, because you kind of have to be around it, right? That's somewhat the disadvantage of having something that's 1/6 scale, is it's so large that it's not like you're going to put it on a shelf and have it on a Lazy Susan where it can rotate, because then you need a shelf that is the diameter of every angle clearance of the Batmobile while it's rotating in order to enjoy every single line and attribute and function of it. But nonetheless, an amazing set of novelty functions that I can really appreciate. So let me go ahead and turn that off. Button number 5 will stop that. And let's get into the headlights. So in terms of let me get up in here. Super close up. So this is the left headlamp, and you can see the pattern. I'm going to turn it off just to see if there's any contrast, so you can see some detail if there's any contrast in it. So let me press number 1. Number 1 goes off. So you can see some more detail there. I do, to the naked eye, have some type of debris or maybe even some flashing. Whenever this plastic piece was taken from the mold, sometimes some plastic gets left behind. But there's some like milky flashing right there. And I don't know what the hell that is. I haven't noticed that. But anyways, you can kind of see the pattern there. There you go. So yeah, this in the movie, this was originally taken from one of the guys that was working on the design of the vehicle. His wife had an old Honda Accord or Civic, and what he did was he took those lights, he flipped them upside down, and he used them as this. So this technically is an upside down Honda Civic light. So in terms of lights for the Batmobile, some of the cool history and trivia points, I guess, is that they use the rear lights are from a Ferrari. I forget exactly which model. Those round lights in the back, and then the front lights are from a Honda Civic. Two contrastingly different levels of vehicle. So that's pretty cool. So let's check out the left headlight. There is something that I do want to point out on this headlight specifically, and that is I have a gap, and I'm going to try to angle this as best as possible. There we go. So there's a gap, and when I turn on the light, it might be a little bit more apparent. But in terms of the body line to the edge of the light, there is a pretty considerable gap right there. I could take maybe 2 to 3 business cards and cut them in 1/2-inch strips, put them back to back, and slip it in that crevice right there. So the front face of my headlight lens does not meet flush with the body line of this front fender. There's a gap. So let me go ahead and turn on the lights and see if I can accentuate that, or if you can see it. So you can see the gap. And I want to call to attention the amount of difference so you see yellow reflection in this corner. Of course, the headlight itself is a yellow tint, so that's what's providing that yellow color of light. So, but behind that light is a white light. So what I want you to pay attention to is the fact that you could see a contrast in between this ambient light that's reflecting off of the body surface itself And this lens, there's a small wedge of light right in there where my fingertip is, and it looks white. And that's because through that gap, you're able to see that white, the backlight that's being used to illuminate the headlight is a white LED. And that white LED, you can see the white light reflecting off of the interior of the body through that crack. That's something that's a tolerance thing in terms of the molding, engineering, or perhaps maybe it was just the placement of whatever worker was placing that lens did not place it in the correct depth or angle or what have you. It's slightly off, so it left a gap. The other possibility, or one other possibility, is that the molding of the inside wall of that is not perfectly fit, cut, or measured to fit that headlamp. The right side headlamp, I don't have an issue with that one. I don't have a gap on the right side. The only gap that I have is on that left side. So in terms of the front end, once again, this shot right here is spectacular. It is a beautiful profile. It's just a gorgeous profile. So in the front, gorgeous. I mean, this you can't really see from the top, but this the nose cone of this turbo fan turbojet engine. The nose of it's slightly sloped down, which is accurate to the movie. There's a book that is labeled Batmobile, and it essentially has every version of the Batmobiles in every previous iteration, at least cinematically. And it has a whole bunch of different reference photos and the different versions, and that is whether it's the 89 or the Returns, that sloped down nose cone is accurate to both the 89 and the Returns. The difference on the Returns is that this assembly would be painted black. It would not be an almost chrome silver. So other than that, I guess the only thing that I kind of want to point out is I said that as I went around the Batmobile, I would point out whenever you see kind of those divots and those impressions. And once again, you could see, let me use the red dot. You can see this portion right there, this one right there, and I believe that's it. The deepest portion of this indentation is about right there, and the deepest portion of that indentation is about right there. So, looking at it, instead of seeing one completely smooth, curved surface, I do see a smooth, curved surface with some impression or some dents. And just to drive that point home, I know that it's easy to look over and to say, well, kind of get over that and all that stuff, whatever. But let's say I was to blow this vehicle up to 1-to-1 scale. We've all walked by, vehicles that are in a parking lot that have, Coke can size dents or baseball and golf ball size dents. If this were a 1-to-1 scale vehicle, there would be a very viewable amount of considerably sized fender and metal dents that would be ranging from a golf ball size to maybe even softball or larger. Okay. So while on a 1/6 scale vehicle, you could say, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal. You can get over it. I just want to point out once again, that whole, the analogy or the ratio of satisfaction per dollar spent. When you open it for the first time and you've been anticipating this thing for 2 years, from the moment that it was announced to the moment that you put the pre-order in, and then you waited so long for all the updates, and it finally arrives at your door. The amount of anticipation leads to you being really, really excited to get it in hand. And then when you open it up, and at least for me, I speak for myself, I immediately key into what, and I don't know what psychological profile it is, but I immediately try to find something wrong with it first. Always. everything that I buy, I'm like, okay, let me review it, let me look it over or whatever, and let me find whatever inadequacies that it has, because I need to get over that first before I can fully enjoy it. And it's like the longer that I have it and I come to terms with whatever inadequacies or flaws that it has, it's like it's the same thing as getting into an argument and you're pissed off right now, but in a couple of days, like, you're good. And maybe a year from then, you might look back at a situation and you laugh about it, right? This, hopefully, you see the parallel I'm drawing. Essentially, when I first opened this Batmobile, I was going away for the weekend, and I received this, I believe, on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and then I went away that Friday, or maybe even Thursday, I can't remember. Anyways, I didn't have a lot of time to look at it, and I did see those flaws, and I was upset, to be quite honest. But the longer that I've lived with it, the more that I've been able to appreciate the various lines and the silhouettes and all that stuff, and just the attention to the detail of the overall silhouette and body and scale. The anger starts to subside. And it just turns more into, well, I'm not very satisfied with that. I wish this could have been done better, but I still really appreciate this version, right? So anyways, like I said, that's it for the front end. Actually, spoke a little early. Let me go ahead and get you a look at the top vent. So one of the great things that Jazzinc did that is in contrast to what Hot Toys failed to do is all of the vents that require for there to be a mesh backing in them. So, those front turbine vents, the machine gun access covers or lids, those vents, the vent cutouts in you can see those are kind of just like an air vent on the machine gun access lids. And then, of course, all of the slits that are just forward of the canopy, those are also backed with a mesh, which is accurate to the movie. So all of those details that are present in the Jazzinc are not present in the Hot Toys. So we can take a super quick look at that. Roll this over here. As you can see, number one, the slots that are included or featured on the Hot Toys, they're not rounded, and they're not nearly as thick or accurate, and they're also not backed by any mesh. So it's inaccurate in terms of the shape and the size, and they have no back mesh. So that's one of the things that you can expect from the Hot Toys. So if we compare that also to the machine gun lids, those are not. Let me get the magnet real quick so I can show you that. So if I were to take off this access lid, you could see very well that there's no cutout, there's no mesh. There is a dedicated magnet for this tool there, so that you can place it here and pick this up, right? But these are not cut out. Now, once again, this is something that I said, now that I have the Jazzinc, if I find the motivation and I find the right materials, I can take a jeweler's saw and properly saw all this out, drill a hole in the center, and cut everything out, kind of like you would with a jigsaw on a larger piece of wood, right? So I can cut that out and sand it, and then potentially touch up any paint that differs, and then back that with some type of mesh by putting a piece of mesh here flat and having a couple of glue spots, clamping that down, letting it cure, removing the clamp, and so on and so forth, right? And the same thing with here. Here I don't have to cut anything out because those vents you can actually see through, right? So I can easily put a vent or some type of mesh here, and that would improve the accuracy. So all's not lost if you get the Hot Toys. That being said, you have to be the type of person where you don't mind attempting to modify and customize a fairly expensive collectible like that. So to each his own. If that's something that you choose to do, I believe based on your level of skill and your creativity, I think it's very doable and possible. Like I said, you just have to take the risk in doing so, right? Because of course, if you mess up or make too big of a cut or what have you, there's not really any going back, and at that point, you got to fix it. So one thing I'd like to point out, as inaccurate as a lot of that stuff is in terms of the mesh and all that stuff, this is inaccurate as well. So this nose cone is black. I don't recall if Hot Toys was meaning to release the returns version or the 89 version. But either way, whether it was returns or 89, the fact that it is so thick and that it doesn't slope down is inaccurate. I went ahead, this nose cone is actually, it's seated in there with a little bit of adhesive. And because I want to customize this, I kind of finagled it and got it to come off. And I want you to see, there's the ridge, okay? So you can see a couple brush marks that I was testing like a dry brush metal just to see what it would look like. And so I think that this is possible to go ahead and customize. Something else that I would like to point out, and once again, you could tell that this is not as accurate as the Jazzinc because when I'm talking about features, there's modifications that you would have to make to this version in order to get it to be as accurate in terms of function and accuracy to match what it is that Jazzinc was able to achieve. So, in terms of the turbine, this one does not have a motorized turning turbine. That being said, though, and I don't know why it is they did this because there's no way to make this work, except for, you know what? Let me pause and I will be right back. All right, so I wasn't able to find my electronic duster for computers to turn this up, but I'm going to attempt to do it the manual way. Yeah, that is a failed attempt, my friends. There we go. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make is, if you were able to find a small motor, the most easiest accessible ones that I can think of would be one of the rotating or oscillating toothbrushes. All of those toothbrushes have some type of motor located in them. So the next time that you get rid of yours, if you break yours open and it's time to switch toothbrushes, those little motors are a DC motor that works off of typically two or one AA battery. So either 1.5 volts or 3 volts. And it rotates. So the only thing you need to do is add a couple wires and one little switch. The Hot Toys does have access panels on the bottom of it for you to be able to kind of do modifications like that, which would be great. Once again, we're getting into having to modify and customize this type of stuff in order to get this to be as accurate in terms of function and display as the Jazzinc. So, this is kind of exemplifying that each one of these Batmobiles has its pros and its cons. So you really just have to choose which version it is that you're more comfortable with. And also, most importantly, which one fits your budget. And secondly, if you want to start employing the little model that I have of the dollar spent or the satisfaction per dollar spent, are you going to be happier with the Jazzinc version with any and every flaw that it does have, be it engineering or paint and body wise? Are you going to be satisfied with it if you do in fact have those flaws, paying what you're going to pay for it? As opposed to having this in this version and it being inaccurate, but having its pros and its cons. So these are all, those options and those decisions are purely subjective. Those are going to be based on your personal opinions, your feelings about this, you know how much money you have in your bank account. And I'm not going to preach about that anymore. It is your decision which way you want to go. But getting back to this, all I wanted to point out was that this turbine does rotate. Okay, so if you were to find some way to engineer it, you can get one of those toothbrush motors, open it up, and find a way and engineer a way to attach to that turbine and have a little switch on the side, manual switch, to turn that on. And at that point, then you would simulate the same function that the Jazzinc has. So in terms of the details on the inside of this turbine, it's very similar from this one to the Jazzinc. There is a little bit of a difference in terms of the brace, the brackets, and also on mainly this nose. Let me get the rear of it first. So if you can see there is a tube going around the back. If you see there, we'll get out of the way and let it focus real quick. So there's a tube back there, and there is some detail in a space where not many people are going to look, but even so, it is detailed. And if I compare that to the Jazzinc, it is just as detailed and provides some of the same. So you see that hose. Let me focus in on that. And I apologize for the shoddy camera work. Like I said, I don't have professional equipment that minimizes or stabilizes it better or any of that crap. But anyways, there is detail in the back, more so on the Jazzinc version. But that being said, the Hot Toys version does have some details in it too. Both are in spots that you're not necessarily going to look as a collector, but it's nice that they went through the effort of putting that detail in there, right? So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and reattach this nose, and it doesn't key in. I'm just kind of looking for like a more stable rotation connection. But yeah, I plan eventually on modifying that and painting it to reflect more accurately what it is that Jazzinc was able to accomplish. Let me see. Essentially, the right side of this Batmobile is very similar to the left side, so not much to go over there. It's pretty much all the same stuff. I guess the last body line, which is one of the main ones that had me upset, and I feel like I've said that a bunch of times, but when I first opened this, there was quite a few. One of the largest divots or impressions is going to be right here. So let me see if I can. So if you can see, let me get a lint-free cloth. And I'll share, by the way, when I write down my collectibles, so I use distilled water as a wet method of wiping, or at least wetting my rag. The reason why I use distilled water, it's free of any contaminants. So if you're going to be wiping things down or using faucet water, city water, even to fill up the turbine exhaust for that function, the smoke function, that stuff has all types of hard water and minerals and all that stuff, whatever. So I assume that if you were to use regular tap water in the rear exhaust over a certain amount of time, there's going to be some calculus that builds up, and it's going to inhibit that exhaust function from functioning correctly. So on that, I will always use distilled water. And in terms of cleaning the Batmobiles, I have a dedicated cloth. So this is a lint-free rag, and this is what I would use also for my car and my car's finish, my clear coat. This gets washed. You're not supposed to use fabric softener on these types of rags because it leaves residue. So I moisten my rag, and then I don't apply any extra pressure. I kind of just let it glide across, picking up any contaminants. Which, by the way, if you there's a gentleman on YouTube, and he has a channel called Ammo NYC, and he is phenomenal when it comes to detailing cars. I mean, he's done cars for shows, for Grand Prix, for Lamborghini. He's done the regular, Joe Schmo down the block. The guy is extremely talented. So the way that I take care of my car is inspired by, his techniques in wetting your rag, applying a light pressure, and kind of wiping everything down as to not, and then using different surfaces, right? Like, kind of rotating, folding. Anyways, I'm getting off topic. You guys have already been with me for 2.5 videos now, so let me just wrap this up. Anyway, so yeah, I use distilled water. I use a soft rag. I don't apply any pressure, and I kind of just wipe with whatever gravity that the rag has to remove the surface dust and contaminants. So let me do that to the side, which is why I started this, and I'm going to try to point out the divot on that side, and so. You could kind of see it there a little bit. I'm going to use this flashlight. Where we're going to be looking is essentially right there. There's a vertical line right there that is a pretty decent size impression. And you can somewhat see it right there. There you go. So there is a divot here. Just can't get that dust off, huh? There we go. I have another rag that's used for glass that kind of gets out smoother. All righty. And that should be dry. There it goes. All right, so the divots that I'm talking about is that one right there. It is, you can definitely touch it, and it goes all the way down to this wheel well, to the edge of this wheel well down here. So that vertical, and as I run my finger across, you can kind of see the reflection on that far surface. That's kind of the last. And there's another couple of divots here that are congruent with that exact same body line on the other side. So, once again, this, you're going to take it with its flaws and its pros and its cons, right? So I hope that the information that I've provided through these 3 videos help you if you're trying to determine which version you want. Also, to clarify and give you a heads up on what maybe you should look for when you receive yours after you purchase. I would say that, if it's a personal decision, depending on how much money it is that you want to spend and what it is that you're comfortable with. You're going to make the decision that you feel right for you. So what I would say is don't let anybody on the internet, myself or anybody, discourage you from getting either one of these versions. The reality is, at no point in time is this going to sit on a shelf and you're going to say, I absolutely cannot stand that I made this decision. I don't feel like you're going to sit there in regret of having bought or purchased either of these Batmobiles. They are phenomenal. They're extremely cool. Damn it. Stand by. There is one more thing, and I'll try to keep this video down to under an hour by, we've got like a minute and a half to do so. The last thing that I want to show was that grapple hook. So if you remove the grapple hook that Jazzinc included, that fully seats, by the way, in that area. And let me get the camera back down here so that I can show you. So what it is that I'm about to show you is essentially the engineering on the way that these grapnels open up is, it's an oversight. So if I've got this grapnel, this is from the Hot Toys one. If I open each one of these prongs, you could see that every single prong opens up, and if I rotate, they're all even and then can open. That occurs because of the amount of space that is left between each one of these prongs. Okay, this prong, when fully open, does not impede the ability of the next prong over to open. And when I show you Jazzinc, and I'll leave this one here. This one, and there's size comparisons differences, right? Like right now, they're the same distance away from the camera, and you could see the size difference. This one's, the Hot Toys one is larger, the Jazzinc one is a bit smaller. And then in terms of the operation of the grapnels themselves, when you take the claws out, you can't fully open all four of them at the same time. In fact, there's only one that will open all the way, and the other three are a varied degree of open. And the reason why is this surface right here of this prong, of each one of these prongs, impedes the ability of the next prong to open. They clash. Let me see if I can pick that up. You see how there's no space for those prongs to open? So these prongs right here, there's no space. This portion here should be longer, and then this prong should start in front of this space, allowing for when you rotate this forward, that this piece right here, this little corner, does not bang into this corner and wedge itself to where the other ones can't open. Come on, focus, please. So there is no way without breaking this and forcing it, which would cause either one or two of these prongs, grapnel hooks themselves, to pop off and break that little hinge or break off the hinge. So that is the last little engineering flaw that I can identify between the two. I'll go ahead and put both of these away real quick, and I think that's about it. If somebody's watching this review and you can think of something that I either missed or I didn't cover as well, okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so this is the other side. Okay, so that side does not want to stay. That is the access cover for the frisbees or the discs or whatever you want to call them, right? Let me take these out and make sure that there's nothing being impeded due to the discs being inserted. So take those out. Okay, so that panel, for whatever reason, does not want to sit flush. So there's either some type of misalignment of the hinge or something along the mating surface of the closing edge that is stopping it from closing fully. And it is what it is. Once again, it's not a deal breaker. I hope that the information that I provide, that I've gone over in terms of the contrast between the two, help you out. Any criticism, I really do genuinely hope that it's viewed more so as a constructive criticism rather than a scathing review or a review done with malice towards either the Hot Toys or the Jazzinc. Because like I said, there's going to be flaws. There's pros and there's cons to each, and so long as you accept those and you realize how much you're paying and what it is that you're getting, I think that the more informed decision that you make, the happier and more satisfied you're going to be with your selection. So that being said, I hope that these 3 videos find you well. I hope that they help in understanding what it is that you're paying for. Maybe give you a heads up on what it is that you could be looking for, and also just kind of overall, essentially, just more clarity on these collectible items. Overall, they're great. Pros and cons accepted, because I would not want to live in an '89 collecting world where these didn't exist. Okay, so happy collecting. I wish you all well, and I hope that you found these videos helpful and not so painful, even though they were extremely long. So I appreciate you viewing them, and hopefully in the future I'll make some more videos, and you might check those out as well. So take care.